All right, so welcome to Module 4. We're going to talk about running a descriptive analysis. You'll notice I'm working on my computer and I just have the introduction and overview of Module 4 up here. And we're basically going to be using a series of analytical procedures in SPSS that are available under the Analyze option. So I have an example data file open, and this data file just is going to be what we start with. Then I'm going to go and grab another data file and show some more things in the other data file. So you'll remember in our class we have two data files that we're using, one for K-12 folks and one for community college folks. So we want to first start with some frequencies, and frequency analysis is a really handy tool in SPSS for just understanding your data files, for just looking at descriptives. So I'm going to toggle over to my data file and I'm going to show you how to run a frequency analysis. So you'll notice that I'm working on the K-12 data file. I'm going to show you how to run a frequency analysis in this data file, and then I'm also going to show you how to run a frequency analysis in the other data file to support your assignment. What I want to do here is go to my Analyze menu. So I'm up at Analyze and I'm going to go down to Descriptive Statistics, and there's a little 1, 2, 3 frequencies. This is where I'm going to start at for the frequency analysis. So I pull up my frequency menu and here is my frequency menu options. I've got all of the variables in my data file to my left, and I want to put them over here into the right. So I'm going to do a frequency analysis of idea and content, organization, voice, sentence fluency, word choice, and conventions. You'll remember what these are from the case study, so you should know what data we're actually looking at. I'm going to move these over to variables, and then I'm going to go up here and click on statistics. These statistics can give you different and more information than what the normal frequency analysis will run. So you can look at quartiles, cut points, means, median, modes, measures of dispersion, and then of course distribution. So for this frequency analysis, in addition to the frequency analysis, I'm also really interested in my measures of central tendency. So I'm going to run a measure of central tendency on all of these ratings. So I have 6 ratings. I have 3 measures of central tendency, mean, median, mode, and I'm going to tell this to go ahead and display a frequency table. The other thing you can do too when you're doing frequency analyses, if you want, is you can actually program SPSS to give you some charts. So if you want a histogram with a normal curve, that's an option right there. You don't always have to do that. Bar charts, pigrams, that sort of thing are all available in this Analyze module on SPSS. But I don't need any of those right now. I'm just going to click Continue. Okay, so here's my frequency analysis. I click OK, and you'll notice that I am then moved to a new output screen, and the output screen shows the statistics that were processed for idea and content, organization, voice, sentence fluency, word choice, and conventions. I have my mean, my median, and my mode. So this is the average, this is the midpoint, and this is the one that's the most frequent rating. All right. So now I'm looking at idea and content. The frequency of needs significant intervention is 95. So 95 of the students needed significant intervention on this area. Focused intervention, 555. 4% needed significant intervention, 23% needed focused intervention, and so on. Near proficient, proficient, above proficient, and then the corresponding categories. I can do the same thing with organization. I can do the same thing with voice. I can do the same thing with sentence fluency, word choice, and conventions now. I can look at where my most significant need is based on this analysis across these 6 domains, of course. All right. It would be great if you could run this analysis too. So why don't you go ahead and give that a try. All right, I'm going to go on and I'm going to go ahead and actually do a frequency analysis in our other data file as well. So I'm going to go to File, Open, Data. I'm pointing it towards my example data file, community college flavor of data. I'm going to open that up. All right, so now I'm going to go to Analyze, and I'm going to go down to my descriptive statistics and my frequencies. And again, I'm going to just select the measures that I want to see frequencies of. This time I didn't select any statistics, and we'll pay attention to the output after not selecting those statistics. You'll notice that I don't put in the unique identifier for the student. I don't need to know the frequencies of those unique IDs. And I also didn't put in the student gender for frequency. Not important. All right. Now I'm running a frequency analysis. Rating 1, course 1, overall course quality. Rating 1, course 2, overall course quality. So if I look at this table and I look at this table, I now have comparative data. I know that in course 2, 11 people strongly disagreed with the course quality. In course 1, 80 people strongly disagreed with the course quality. In course 2, 232 people strongly agreed with the overall course quality question, as opposed to 97 in course 1. So now I've turned that rating scale into some pretty useful information where I've broken it apart because it's been organized at the variable level for each one of these courses, so I can start comparing people's responses. So the frequency analysis in this case has given me a way to just start comparing some basic statistics across those ratings. All right, that's frequency analysis. Let's go back to our module intro and overview and look if there's any other analyses we need to run. We've got frequencies, we've got crosstabs, we have explore and correlate. So we just looked at the frequencies analysis. Let's go ahead and take a look at the crosstabs analysis. I'll start with the example K-12 data file. Crosstabs is a pretty powerful way of organizing your data, like I mentioned. What it lets you do is split your data out by rows and columns so that you can start looking at groups of data as opposed to just looking at the raw data like we looked at in the frequency analysis. So let's say I'm interested in two things in the K-12 example data file. I'm interested in ideas and content, and I'm interested in knowing how those ideas and content really just match up to my organization. I can use crosstabs to do that. This is going to display these variables in a way that lets me look at how people responded to these two levels of data, or to these two variables of data. So in my statistics, I'm not going to tell it to do any other statistical calculations with this data, so I'm going to leave that blank. In my cells, I'm going to only be focusing on the observed, what we actually saw, not what was expected, and really not any percentages either. No need to look at residuals. All right, now what I'm going to do is click OK. All right, so I'm going to go down to my output table. And what you're going to see is that case processing summary lets you know that there were 494 students that were valid responses in this data file. 62.8% of the data file had valid responses. And what we're looking at here is how ideas and content relates to organization with respect to the rating level. So needs significant intervention and needs significant intervention. There are 61 students who need significant intervention in both idea and content and organization. There are 23 students who need significant intervention in organization and only focused intervention in ideas and content. So you can start to see that this could be a useful way to really analyze where groups of students fell in regards to that particular data set. What's interesting about this is you'll notice that there's no students who are proficient or above proficient in one who need intervention in the other, although there is one that's near proficient in organization. Or I'm sorry, near proficient in idea and content and needing significant intervention in organization. So this is an interesting way to start dissecting your data. And you can do this with any of the data files that you have, with any of the variables that are of interest to you. Simply use crosstabs to start getting a better view of the data file. All right, let's take a look at the other one. Then there's the Explore, which is very useful. Let's go to our community college data file for the Explore example. I'm just going to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Explore. So let's say that I'm interested in understanding if there's differences between gender and course ratings. Let's take a look. I'm going to explore whether gender influences a rating in a course. So my student gender is coded as male, female. That's in the variable page, or I'm sorry, the data view page. You can look at that. And then I also have now just maybe one course to take a look at. I'm curious if there's any difference. I don't really need to display plots, so I'm just going to click Display Statistics. And the statistics that I'm going to be looking at are really just descriptives. So what I've just told SPSS to do is give me some descriptive statistics, which are of course things like mean, median, mode, on rating 1, course 1, and break it down by student gender. Okay. Let's take a look at our output. All right. So in rating 1, course 1, student gender F, which would mean female, had an average rating of 2.47. Student gender male had an average rating of 2.46, meaning that men were 0.01 less than women in their rating, their average rating of this particular item on the course quality survey. You could of course do this for any variable of interest. Which is what I'm doing now. Let's take a look at ratings 1 through 3 across the groups. Rating 1, course 1, that's what we looked at up above. Now I'm looking at rating 1 and course 2. Again, not hugely different results between the average ratings of men and women, just by eyeballing the mean of the rating. 2.44, 2.45, 3.01 for women, 3.01 again, 3.05. Not hugely different. Rating 3, course 1, 2.34, 2.31. Rating 3, course 2, 2.90 for women, 2.94 for men. So not huge differences in gender. I've now just dissected those 3 course ratings across course 1 and course 2 and have looked at how gender is influencing the results, or how gender would potentially be influencing the results. And I'm not seeing much. The averages aren't very different. So you can look at the mean, the median, the variance, the standard deviation, the minimum, the maximum, the range, etc. The Explore tool is pretty powerful. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some correlations. For this correlation example, I'm going to go to the K-12 data, and I'm going to go to Analyze, Correlate, Bivariate. And I'm going to make a correlation matrix that shows me how each one of these ratings correlate with each other. Idea, organization, voice, sentence, word choice, and conventions. I'm going to drop them over into the variables category. Again, remember, I'm not putting these other variables over here because I don't want to know how the child's ID or their assessment period correlate with any of these variables. I only want to know how these measures themselves correlate with each other. So I'm going to click OK. After I have moved these over here, you'll notice I'm doing a two-tailed Pearson correlation. There are different flavors of these and different rules for when you use either one. So you should read about that and decide whether you need a different kind of correlation or whether you can just simply stick with the correlation as is and as it defaults to. All right, I'm going to go to my output menu, and now I have done a correlation analysis. It was that simple. Idea and content is correlated to idea and content by 100%. Idea and content is correlated to organization at the correlation coefficient of 0.817, significant. 0.807, significant correlation. 0.776, significant correlation. 0.777, significant correlation. 0.766, significant correlation. So you can see that along this top row, I have the series of variables, and in this right here, this column, I have a series of variables going down too. So these variables just simply show how each one of the variables correlates to the other variable. It's really straightforward. Again, I could do this with any of my data that I was curious about. I could go to analyze my community college data file, and I could carefully look at how my ratings were correlated to one another. So if I wanted to look at rating 1 for course 1, rating 2 for course 1, rating 3 for course 1, rating 4 for course 1, I would come up with a correlation matrix that looked at course 1's only and the first 4 ratings. That's exactly what my graphic user interface is telling me. I'm looking at the first 4 ratings, and I'm looking at only the ratings from course 1. So I would click OK. I would go back to my output file, and I would examine how closely these ratings were correlated. Rating 1, course 1, 0.788, 0.758, 0.827, etc., etc. What I see is that all of these ratings are highly correlated with each other, which can be very useful and very helpful. All right, so we talked about doing a frequency analysis using crosstabs, using Explore, and using Correlate with your data. Go ahead and email me if you have any questions, and let me know what I can do to help you with this assignment if you need any help. Thanks.